The thorn beast of Akamaria had never met a human. That was about to change. Mark Wright stepped off the shuttle onto the alien world, his boots sinking into the soft purple soil. The air was thick with tension and the acrid scent of fear. Akamarian officials huddled nearby, their tentacles twitching nervously as they watched the human xenobiologist unload his specialized equipment. Akamaria, once a thriving hub of interstellar commerce, now stood as a quarantined world. The cause, a 30-foot-tall quadrupedal monster known as the Thorn Beast. Its razor-sharp spines, unparalleled strength, and hyper-aggressive nature had transformed it into a terror that stalked the planet's surface, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Linux, the senior Akamarian scientist assigned as Mark's liaison, approached with a skeptical expression. "Human, I must warn you. Our most advanced weapons and strategies have failed against the Thorn Beast. Many of our bravest warriors lie dead in its hunting grounds." He began assembling his equipment, sensor arrays, camouflage nets, and a custom-designed tranquilizer gun. Each piece represented years of research and experience dealing with the galaxy's most dangerous fauna. "My plan is straightforward," Mark explained as he worked. "First we track and observe. Then we analyze its behavior, identify weaknesses. Only when we understand the Thorn Beast do we attempt capture." Linux's tentacles curled in doubt. "Previous tranquilizer attempts only enraged the beast. What makes you think your method will be different?" Mark patted the modified gun at his side. "Adaptability, Linux. This isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. I'll adjust the formula based on what we learn." Over the next week, Mark set up a base camp near the Thorn Beast's suspected hunting grounds. Advanced camouflage and defensive measures kept him hidden as he observed the creature from a distance. Each day brought new insights. The beast's hunting patterns, the way its spines flexed and retracted, potential weak spots in its natural armor. On the 7th day, Mark tracked the Thorn Beast to its lair, a massive cavern in a rocky outcropping. He set up a perimeter of sensors, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the beast emerged to hunt, Mark sprang into action. Remote-controlled drones herded the Thorn Beast into a prepared area. Sonic emitters activated, disorienting the massive predator. In that crucial moment of confusion, Mark took aim with his tranquilizer gun and fired. The dart struck true, finding a vulnerable spot on the Thorn Beast's neck. But the fight was far from over. The creature roared in fury, its spines bristling as it charged towards Mark's position. Lesser beings would have fled. Mark stood his ground. His fingers danced over a control panel, remotely adjusting the tranquilizer's dosage as he observed its effects. The Thorn Beast's charge slowed, its steps becoming unsteady. With a final, earth-shaking rumble, the apex predator of Akamaria collapsed mere feet from where Mark stood. The human exhaled slowly, then stepped forward to begin his examination of the sedated creature. Linux arrived with a team of astonished Akamarian scientists. They found Mark calmly collecting data from the unconscious Thorn Beast, unharmed and focused on his work. "This is just the beginning," Mark told the stunned onlookers. "Understanding the Thorn Beast is our first step towards coexistence. There's so much we can learn from this magnificent creature." As the Thorn Beast lay sedated, news of Mark's unprecedented achievement spread like wildfire across Akamaria and beyond. Within days, the Galactic Council lifted the long-standing quarantine, opening the floodgates for researchers and officials eager to witness the human's extraordinary feat firsthand. Dr. Kreslak, a distinguished Akamarian biologist with multiple appendages and iridescent scales, arrived at the research site with an array of advanced equipment. "I must admit, I was skeptical when I first heard the reports," he said, his voice a melodious trill. "But seeing this, it's truly remarkable." Mark nodded, gesturing towards the unconscious Thorn Beast. "We've only scratched the surface, Dr. Kreslak. I'm looking forward to working with you to uncover the secrets of this magnificent creature." Together, they initiated a series of non-invasive tests. Holographic scanners mapped the Thorn Beast's intricate skeletal structure, while bioelectric sensors probed its nervous system. Each new piece of data revealed a creature far more complex than anyone had imagined. "Look at this," Mark said, pointing to a three-dimensional projection of the thorn beast's brain. "The neural density is off the charts. This creature isn't just acting on instinct, it's thinking, problem-solving." Dr. Kreslak's scales shifted to a deep blue of excitement. "Fascinating. And these sensory organs, they're unlike anything in our taxonomical database." As they delved deeper into their research, a disturbing pattern emerged. Irregular electrical impulses coursed through the thorn beast's nervous system, concentrated around its pain centers. "Impressive work, Mr. Wright," Zorn's voice resonated. "Your success here could revolutionize our approach to xenobiology across the galaxy." The counselor proposed establishing a joint human-Akamarian research facility on the planet. "Think of the possibilities," Zorn enthused. "Combining human ingenuity with Akamarian biological expertise, we could unlock secrets that have eluded us for centuries." As plans for the new facility took shape, resistance began to form. Elder Vexus, a venerable Akamarian with weather-beaten tentacles, led a group of traditionalists in protest near the research site. "The thorn beast is sacred," Vexus bellowed, his followers echoing the sentiment. "These off-worlders desecrate our heritage with their meddling." Before they could formulate a plan, alarms blared across the compound. The thorn beast was waking up far earlier than anticipated. "We're not ready for this," Dr. Kreslak said, his scales paling to a sickly green. "Our containment measures won't hold if it's fully conscious." Mark's mind raced. They couldn't risk the thorn beast escaping, but they also couldn't harm it. "We need more space," he muttered, an idea forming. "A controlled environment where it can roam, where we can study it without putting anyone at risk." He outlined his plan. A massive enclosure using advanced force field technology, integrated with the natural terrain. It would provide the thorn beast with a simulated habitat while allowing for safe observation. As they began preparations, the ground beneath them trembled. "Seismic activity," Linux reported, checking a handheld device. "Unusual for this region." Mark initiated a geological survey, revealing a vast network of underground caverns. "This could be perfect," he said, examining the holographic map. "Natural protection, familiar environment. It's ideal for the thorn beast." But the caverns held more than just potential. As they explored deeper, they discovered remnants of an ancient Akamarian civilization, intricate carvings depicting thorn beasts and Akamarians living in harmony. "Incredible," Dr. Kreslak breathed, running a tentacle over the weathered stone. "This changes everything we thought we knew about our history with these creatures." The discovery added new urgency to their work. Not only were they racing against the thorn beast's imminent awakening, but they now faced the challenge of preserving a historical site of immense cultural significance. "You will leave our world and our sacred beasts alone," Vexus demanded, his tentacles lashing angrily. Mark stood his ground, acutely aware of the delicate situation. Behind him, the sedated thorn beast stirred restlessly. Before them, a crowd of angry Akamarians threatened to derail everything they had worked for. And somewhere beneath their feet lay the key to understanding the complex relationship between two species. As the standoff intensified, Mark knew that his next actions would shape not just the fate of the thorn beast, but the future of human-Akamarian relations, and perhaps the very nature of interspecies coexistence throughout the galaxy. The ground trembled beneath Mark's feet as the thorn beast stirred, its massive form shifting restlessly within the containment field. He glanced at the monitors, noting the spike in the creature's vital signs. The sedatives were wearing off faster than anticipated. "Dr. Kreslak, we need to accelerate our timeline," Mark called out, his voice tight with urgency. "The thorn beast is becoming more agitated by the hour." The Akamarian scientist slithered over, his scales flickering with concern as he examined the data. "You're right. At this rate, we have less than 48 hours before full consciousness. We must act now." Mark nodded, his mind racing through calculations and contingencies. "Initiate Protocol Omega. We're moving the thorn beast to the caverns immediately." As the research facility erupted into a flurry of activity, Mark felt a familiar tension coiling in his gut. The next few hours would be critical, not just for the success of their mission, but for the safety of everyone involved. Outside, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Elder Vexus had rallied a larger crowd of protesters, their angry chants echoing across the purple landscape. The entrance to the facility was completely blocked, cutting off access to vital supplies and equipment. Mark approached the security barrier, eyeing the seething mass of tentacles and translucent skin beyond. Elder Vexus stood at the forefront, his weathered form radiating defiance. "Elder Vexus," Mark called out, his voice amplified by the facility's communication system. "I understand your concerns, but we must work together. The Thornbeast's condition is critical. If we don't act now, we risk losing everything we've worked for." The Elder's eyes narrowed, bioluminescent patterns flashing across his skin in a display of agitation. "You speak of cooperation, human, yet you continue to desecrate our sacred traditions. We will not stand idly by while you experiment on our world's most revered creature." Before Mark could respond, a distant rumble caught his attention. He looked up to see dark clouds gathering on the horizon, flashes of alien lightning illuminating their roiling depths. The storm they'd been tracking was moving in faster than predicted. "Linux," Mark called into his communicator, "what's the latest on that weather system?" The Akamarian's voice crackled with static. "It's intensifying rapidly, Mark. We're looking at Category 6 winds within the next 3 hours. Our current containment structure won't withstand that kind of punishment." Mark's mind focused as he surveyed the facility. They were running out of options and time. He turned back to the crowd, his expression grave. "Elder Vexus, I implore you to listen. A severe storm is approaching. If we don't move the Thornbeast to safety, it could be injured or killed when our facility fails. Is that what you want?" The Elder hesitated, confusion rippling through the crowd. In that moment of uncertainty, a familiar figure pushed through the throng. Councillor Zorn's bioluminescent form pulsed with authority as he addressed both sides. "Enough!" The councillor's resonant voice cut through the tension. "This impasse serves no one. Elder Vexus, I propose a compromise. Allow the research to continue, but under the direct oversight of a council of Akamarian elders, including yourself." Mark bristled at the idea of additional oversight, but he recognized the necessity of diplomacy. "I'm willing to accept those terms, Councillor, but we must act now. Every moment we delay puts the Thornbeast at greater risk." After a tense negotiation, an agreement was reached. The protesters grudgingly dispersed, allowing Mark's team to resume their work. But valuable time had been lost. Inside the facility, Mark raced against the clock. The reinforced containment unit designed to transport the Thornbeast was barely half finished. Engineers worked feverishly, their tools whirring as they assembled the massive structure. Dr. Kreslak approached, his tentacles curled with worry. "Mark, the Thornbeast's neural scans are alarming. The parasitic infection is spreading faster than we anticipated. It's in considerable pain." Mark's heart sank as he examined the holographic projection of the creature's nervous system. Red hotspots of activity pulsed throughout its massive form, a clear indication of its suffering. As the team scrambled to finalize preparations, the storm struck with full force. Wind howled through the facility's superstructure, and purple lightning split the sky. The very ground seemed to quake beneath the fury of the tempest. Amidst the chaos, alarms blared. The Thornbeast was fully awake, its roars of pain and rage echoing through the compound. Mark rushed to the containment area, his heart pounding. The sight that greeted him sent a chill down his spine. The Thornbeast thrashed against its energy barriers, its massive form a blur of spines and rippling muscle. Each impact sent shock waves through the facility's systems. As if in response to his words, a massive power surge ripped through the facility. Lights flickered and died, plunging the area into darkness. For a heart-stopping moment, only the creature's glowing eyes were visible in the gloom. Then, with a sound like tearing metal, the energy barrier failed. The Thornbeast was free. Mark stood his ground as the massive predator turned its gaze upon him. In that moment, All his years of training, all his carefully laid plans, seemed woefully inadequate. But he wasn't alone. The newcomer, Lyra, stepped beside Mark, her form small and fragile compared to the towering thornbeast, yet there was no fear in her eyes, only commitment. "Trust me," she said, meeting Mark's gaze. Then, to his astonishment, she began to emit a series of complex vocalizations, her body swaying in a rhythmic pattern. The effect on the thornbeast was immediate. Its aggressive posture softened, its glowing eyes fixed on Lyra with what could only be described as recognition. As they inched towards the newly constructed biome, Mark's mind raced with possibilities. Lyra's abilities could revolutionize their entire approach to thornbeast research and conservation. But they weren't out of danger yet. The storm raged on, threatening to tear the facility apart around them, and the thornbeast, though momentarily calm, was still suffering from its parasitic infection. Its next move remained unpredictable. Mark keyed his communicator, his voice low and urgent. "Team, this is our one shot. Prepare for emergency relocation. We move on my mark." With Lyra's ancient knowledge and Mark's modern expertise, they stood at the precipice of a new era in human-Akamarian relations. But first, they had to survive the night. The thornbeast rumbled, its massive form tensing as if sensing the weight of the moment. Mark took a deep breath, steadying himself for what came next. The future of two species hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. An option. Mark's fingers flew across the control panel, initiating emergency protocols. Alarms blared as the facility plunged into darkness, the thornbeast's containment unit flickering ominously. "Status report," Mark shouted into his comm unit, straining to see through the sudden gloom. Dr. Kreslak's voice crackled back, tinged with panic. "Main power's down. Backup generators are struggling to come online. The storm must have damaged our primary systems." "Offline," Dr. Kreslak confirmed. "We're working to restore power, but it'll take time we don't have." Mark's mind raced, weighing impossible options. The creature was becoming more alert by the second, the sedatives wearing off far too quickly. He thought of Lyra's demonstration, the way she had connected with the beast. It was a long shot, but it might be their only chance. Taking a deep breath, Mark approached the containment unit. The thornbeast's eyes locked onto him, glowing with primal intelligence. Remembering Lyra's techniques, Mark began to vocalize a series of low, rhythmic sounds emanating from deep in his throat. He kept his posture open, non-threatening, even as every instinct screamed at him to run. The thornbeast tilted its massive head, spines rippling along its back. For a heart-stopping moment, Mark thought he had made a terrible mistake. Then, almost imperceptibly, the creature's aggressive stance softened. "It's working," Mark whispered into his comm. "Keep on those repairs. I'll buy us as much time as I can." As Mark continued his improvised communication, he became aware of a commotion outside the facility. Through the reinforced windows, he could see Elder Vexus and his followers approaching, their bioluminescent patterns flashing with agitation. "Counselor Zorn," Mark called out, careful not to break his connection with the thornbeast. "We have a situation developing outside." Mark watched as staff members began filing out of the facility, their faces a mix of fear and regret at abandoning their posts. He knew it was the right call, but it left him feeling terribly exposed. A loud crash drew Mark's attention back to the thornbeast. A section of the outer wall had partially collapsed, debris threatening to breach the creature's already weakened containment field. The thornbeast roared, a sound that shook Mark to his very core. Acting on instinct, Mark began to move, guiding the creature away from the damaged area. To his amazement, the thornbeast followed, its movements cautious but not overtly aggressive. It was trusting him, Mark realized, with a jolt of awe and terror. "Mark!" a familiar voice called out. He turned to see Lyra rushing towards him, her eyes wide with dedication. "Lyra, you shouldn't be here," Mark said, never ceasing his vocalizations. "It's too dangerous." "I can help," she insisted, falling into step beside him. Together they created a more complex rhythm of sounds and movements, further calming the agitated thornbeast. Dr. Kreslak's voice crackled over the comm once more. Mark, we've managed to restore partial power to the relocation equipment, but it's going to require manual operation. Someone needs to guide the Thorn Beast through the entire process. Mark met Lyra's gaze, seeing his own dedication mirrored there. We'll do it, he said, knowing full well the risks involved. As they prepared to move the Thorn Beast, a new threat emerged. Elder Vexus's followers had breached the facility's perimeter, their intentions clear. They meant to free the Thorn Beast, regardless of the consequences. Mark watched as Akamarian security officers, led by a stern-faced individual named Grex, moved to intercept the traditionalists. The resulting clash was a whirl of tentacles and bioluminescent flashes, punctuated by shouts and the occasional burst from a stun weapon. The commotion was having an effect on the Thorn Beast. It shifted restlessly, its earlier calm giving way to agitation. Mark positioned himself between the creature and the conflict, using his body as a shield to block its view. "Focus on me," he said, locking eyes with the massive predator. "That's it, just follow my lead." Slowly, painstakingly, they began to move towards the transport unit. Each step was a victory, a testament to the unprecedented trust building between human and Thorn Beast. Just as they reached the transport unit, a violent tremor shook the facility. Mark stumbled, nearly losing his footing. The unstable geology they had discovered earlier was making itself known at the worst possible moment. "The transport route is compromised," Dr. Kreslak reported, his voice tight with stress. "There's a partial collapse blocking the path to the new biome." Mark's mind raced, calculating options. "We'll have to find another way," he said, guiding the Thorn Beast into the transport unit. "I'm going to override the guidance systems, plot a new course manually." As the doors of the transport unit sealed shut, Mark found himself in close quarters with one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The Thorn Beast's breath was hot on his skin, its massive form filling the confined space. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and it would all be over. With trembling hands, Mark activated the manual controls. The transport unit lurched forward, beginning its precarious journey through the unstable facility. Outside, he could hear the ongoing conflict between security forces and the traditionalists, adding another layer of tension to an already fraught situation. They navigated through shifting rubble and unstable ground, each movement a careful negotiation between man and beast. Mark's focus narrowed to a laser point, every sense attuned to the Thorn Beast's reactions and the treacherous path ahead. As they approached the entrance to the new biome, Mark's heart sank. The transport unit had taken damage during their perilous journey. Its doors were jammed, unable to fully open into the habitat. In that moment, Mark knew what he had to do. It was reckless, possibly suicidal, but it was their only chance. "I'm going to open the doors manually," he said into his comm unit, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "I'll lead the Thorn Beast into the habitat myself." Ignoring the protests crackling through his earpiece, Mark reached for the manual release. The doors creaked open, revealing the lush, alien landscape of the carefully constructed biome. Mark stepped out, his heart pounding, and turned to face the Thorn Beast. The creature hesitated at the threshold, its massive form tense with indecision. Mark held his breath, acutely aware that everything hinged on this moment. He extended his hand, palm out, in a gesture of trust. "Come on," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's time for you to go home." The Thorn Beast's eyes locked onto Mark's, filled with an intelligence that defied easy categorization. For a long, agonizing moment, neither moved. Then, with a grace that belied its enormous size, the Thorn Beast took a step forward. As creature and man stood together at the entrance to a new world, the future of human-Akamarian relations hung in the balance. The next few moments would determine not just the fate of the Thorn Beast, but the course of interspecies cooperation for generations to come. Mark took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The journey into the biome would be fraught with danger, but he was committed to seeing it through. With the Thorn Beast at his side, he took his first step into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in this alien Eden. Mark took a deep breath, his heart pounding as he stood at the threshold of the new biome. The thorn beast loomed over him, its massive form casting a shadow across the entrance. Gone was the primal rage in its eyes, replaced by a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. Mark knew that this moment would define not only the success of the project, but also the future of human-thorn-beast relations. With careful, deliberate movements, Mark began to back into the biome. He maintained unwavering eye contact with the creature, his hands moving in gentle, beckoning gestures. Soft vocalizations escaped his lips, a rhythmic series of sounds that seemed to captivate the thorn beast's attention. The creature tilted its head, razor-sharp spines glinting in the artificial light of the habitat. It took a tentative step forward, following Mark's lead. The air was thick with tension, as human and beast engaged in this delicate dance. Suddenly, a thunderous crash echoed through the area. More debris from the damaged facility had fallen, the sound reverberating off the walls. The thorn beast reared back, startled by the unexpected noise, its muscles tensed, ready to flee or fight. In that critical moment, Mark made a split-second decision. He turned his back to the creature, exposing himself completely. With confident strides, he walked deeper into the biome, his movements smooth and unhurried. It was a bold display of trust, a gamble that could cost him his life if miscalculated. For several agonizing seconds, there was only silence. Then the soft padding of enormous feet on synthetic soil reached Mark's ears. He resisted the urge to look back, continuing his steady pace into the heart of the habitat. As they ventured further into the expansive ecosystem, the thorn beast's demeanor underwent a remarkable transformation. Its footsteps became lighter, more curious. Mark could hear it sniffing the air, taking in the carefully crafted environment designed to mimic its natural habitat. Mark led the creature towards a large watering hole, its surface rippling gently in the artificial breeze. The thorn beast's pace quickened slightly at the sight of water. It approached the pool, lowering its massive head to drink. While the creature quenched its thirst, Mark quietly activated a series of hidden sensors throughout the biome. Holographic displays flickered to life on his wrist device, streaming real-time data on the thorn beast's vital signs and behavior. As he studied the incoming information, Mark's eyes widened in astonishment. The creature's stress levels were plummeting, its brain activity suggesting a state of contentment he had never before observed in a thorn beast. This was more than just a successful relocation. It was a breakthrough in understanding these complex beings. Emboldened by this success, Mark decided to push the boundaries even further. As the thorn beast finished drinking, he slowly approached it, his hand extended, palm out, towards the creature's massive snout. The air in the observation room grew thick with tension as scientists and officials watched, scarcely daring to breathe. Time seemed to stand still as the thorn beast regarded Mark's outstretched hand. Then, with agonizing slowness, it lowered its head. Mark's fingertips made contact with the creature's armored skin, feeling the rough texture beneath his hand. A collective gasp echoed through the observation room, followed by a burst of cheers and applause. Even Elder Vexus, who had been watching the events unfold with a stern expression, seemed visibly moved by this unprecedented interaction. As Mark continued to bond with the thorn beast, the soft hiss of the biome's airlock signaled Lyra's arrival. She entered carrying a container of the anti-parasitic compound, her movements slow and deliberate. Mark nodded, never breaking his connection with the thorn beast. "Bring it here, slowly," he instructed. Under Mark's guidance, Lyra approached the creature. She opened the container, revealing food permeated with the anti-parasitic compound. The thorn beast's nostrils flared, catching the scent of the offering. "That's it," Mark encouraged, both to Lyra and the thorn beast. "Nice and easy." The creature lowered its head, sniffing at the medicated food. After a moment's hesitation, it began to eat. Mark and Lyra exchanged a look of triumph. This was the first dose of the treatment that would alleviate the thorn beast's long-standing pain. Over the next few hours, Mark and Lyra worked in tandem, observing and interacting with the thorn beast as it acclimated to its new environment. They watched in awe as the creature began to display natural behaviors that had never before been documented up close. The thorn beast lumbered to the edge of the habitat, using its massive claws to scrape against the synthetic bark of the trees. Mark recognized this as territorial marking, a behavior previously only theorized based on distant observations. "Look," Lyra whispered, pointing to a secluded area of the biome. The thorn beast was gathering fallen branches and leaves, arranging them in a circular pattern. "It's creating a nest." Mark nodded, his eyes never leaving the creature. "This is incredible. Its aggressive tendencies are diminishing. It's behaving as it would in the wild, without the stress factors that led to its previous outbursts." As the artificial day cycle in the biome transitioned to night, Mark reluctantly prepared to exit. He approached the thorn beast one last time, speaking in low, soothing tones. The creature watched him with what could almost be described as contentment, a far cry from the aggressive beast that had first entered the facility. Mark stepped out of the biome, exhaustion and triumph warring for dominance in his body. He was immediately surrounded by a crowd of Akamarian scientists, government officials, and even some of Elder Vexus's followers. Their tentacles waved in excitement, bioluminescent patterns flashing in what Mark had come to recognize as expressions of joy and admiration. Galactic Councillor Zorn pushed through the crowd, his usually stern face split by a wide smile. "Mark," he announced, his voice carrying over the excited chatter, "I am officially declaring this project a success. The quarantine on Akamaria will be permanently lifted." The announcement was met with a cacophony of cheers and flashing bioluminescence. Mark felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Dr. Kreslak, his eyes shining with pride. Mark nodded, his mind already racing with the implications of their success. "This is just the beginning," he replied. "We need to establish a long-term research and conservation program. There's so much more to learn." As the celebration continued around him, Mark's gaze was drawn back to the biome. Through the observation window, he could see the thorn beast settling into its nest, its massive form curled up in a way that seemed almost peaceful. For the first time since he had arrived on Akamaria, Mark allowed himself to truly relax. They had done more than just relocate a dangerous creature. They had opened up a new chapter in interspecies relations, one that promised to reshape humanity's understanding of the cosmos and its inhabitants. As Mark watched the thorn beast sleep, he knew that their journey of discovery was far from finished. It was, in fact, only just beginning. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.